Acevedo Aesthetics Corp. This is Made in House. It's the show where we chat through various topics on design, culture, and the business of creativity. Now say hello and welcome Carrie and Angel.
Welcome to Made in House, everyone. My name is Angel Acevedo. This is Karielys Acevedo. Hello. And, I just realized, I don't think the last episode we even introduced ourselves.
I thought about that, but I feel like it's very natural for you, so I think we did.
I just think we just kind of went in hot.
We'll see.
Hope you all have found our content not only shareable, but, what's the word? What escapes me?
Encouraging,
helpful,
supportive,
valuable.
There you go.
That's what I was looking for. So thankful that you all are here with us. You can be at any other podcast, but you're here in our podcast in our home. This is Made in House, and this this show is just about having conversations, what I call creative conversations, and we just like to talk about different topics. My wife and I, Kari and I, have been in the industry working together for a little bit already, and now we're experimenting with different projects and different things. So we are inviting you on the journey along. So
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Any words of intro, Kari?
No, other than it's time for
Fit check, fam. Della,
Fit
run
check.
it. Run it, Della, run it.
All right, here we go. This is an exclusive, unreleased, first time sneak peek. I don't know if I said that right. God is a Designer hoodie and sweatpants set. This is the creative operations set. Look at that back hit, Helvetica type, big fold, big font, thick, thick weight, big font, thick weight. There you go. Helvetica with the Dota seal. That's what you call that, right? The Dota seal. There we go. Inspired by creation for creation. Let's go. I'm wearing it too. The cool one. Okay, let me engage in the fit check. I'm just gonna turn around and literally. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's pretty fresh.
That's what's dope about this shirt. And it's actually really comfy. I was actually admiring the cuffs on this shirt because it actually feels really good. It's like a hoodie almost.
Yeah.
So it feels nice.
High quality.
It feels quality. It doesn't feel like a cheap long sleeve. So shout out to God, it's a Designer.
Thank you.
And it's cute designer.
Use promo code Made in House and get, I don't remember what, 15% I think off.
15,
Made in House. Della will put the code in one of these.
All right. Shout out to Della.
Shout out. We got to plug. We got to plug.
Blessed day, sir.
We do have Made in House merch if you want to check it out.
We do, yes.
It's a whole other thing, but shop.acevedo.co. But we got to plug, Kari.
Okay.
Today's
Della, how are you doing?
You're asking Della?
Yeah. How's it going?
How's it going, Della?
You doing good?
You want to put a little blurb?
All
you
right,
know how you say it?
Just being dumb.
Yeah. Today's topic.
Today's topic.
It's interesting.
I can pronounce my words properly.
Today's topic is interesting.
Yes.
It is something that I don't think a lot of us as creative people think about too much.
Or talk about, maybe.
Or talk about too much, right? And what is it, Kari?
Today's topic, design ethics.
Wow.
The responsibilities of designers in the modern world.
Wow.
So we're going to talk a little bit about ethics here. And we may cover a little bit of different areas, but just best practices and, standards, recommendations from us.
Yeah.
Who've experienced a little bit of this, and just our work ethic. We're going to share a little bit of our work ethic and our values around how we operate when we're making stuff.
Right.
But we basically wanted to just frame the conversation this way. We got a few questions relating to, copying, how to avoid it, where to find inspiration, different things like that, And And so we just kind of wanted to address it a little bit and just have a candid conversation around it, and you take what you wish from it.
Yeah.
But Angel, let's go ahead and let's start talking. And in a previous episode, we talked a little bit about copying, and I mentioned this book. I pulled it from bookshelf. Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Yeah. I recommend it. It's a super fun, easy read. And his whole philosophy is you learn by copying, Yeah. And you had a similar take too, like you shared. I think we talked about like where we get inspiration from or what and stuff like that. So, what do you think about copying, making stuff that looks like other things? Yeah. Avoiding it.
Yeah.
Can you avoid it, etc.?
I think we dipped our toes, or maybe our whole feet into this kind of topic a couple of episodes ago, where we mentioned where we got our inspiration from, and I remember talking through Everything's a Remix and some other sort of resources that we talked about. So it's not if you're gonna copy, it's when you're gonna copy. I feel like it's going to happen at some point, and either on purpose or you may land on the same solution by mistake, just because there's only a finite amount of things that you can do. And I think as human beings, we borrow or we get inspired from, or we are influenced by everything that we see and experience and smell and we feel. It's just a part of human nature. So I feel like it's going to happen. The answer, in my opinion, or the way I would approach it is how you're going to manage it, and how are you going to maximize it in a way where it's not, where you're not plagiarizing somebody else's work, It's one of those things where, and I mentioned this regarding Gaia, even the God as a designer brand, it's inspired by a bunch of different other things where I just like things and I take inspo from, and I just make my own version. So is copying bad? I think the context is important, because the only way you learn a new skill is by copying a master or copying something that's already done. So if you're I always talk to the young designers, because I feel like the veterans, they have their own different issues. But if you're young and you're into something that you really like, yeah, definitely copy it and try to find out how to do or how to gain this certain skill. From there, but don't stay there. From there, you go and you try to make your own version, or you try to combine that with something else that you've learned so you can make a new version. It's almost like fusing different things together and merging. It's big in the NFT world right now, and I think our friend Fricks, which he's doing the toxic skulls, they have this thing where you roll it, right, and you get, I'm not really too familiar how NFTs work, but as far as I understand, you get like a random one, but then they have this thing of like chemical baths or something like that, where you can merge two different ones to create a new one. And I feel like that's a smart way of gathering or getting different skills that you may have, or different cool talents that you learn from, that you copy, and you merge it with other things that you have already learned to create something new. And a lot of, this is me guessing because I don't have any data to back this up, but I would guess that a lot of the masters and the talented creators, that's what they do. They are mentored by someone, and they gain the skills, then they combine it with their own flavor, and then they make something new out of it. So is copying bad? I would say depends on the context. It's bad if you're just copying. It's happened to me. People just rip the whole thing and they just copy paste, and then they sell it, or they try to claim it as their own. Yeah, 100% plagiarism and all that stuff is bad. I've been guilty of it and a victim of it, on both ends, and it sucks on both ends. But I also think that it could be a tool for you to learn new skills.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've seen just rhetoric and questions, or from, I would call them young designers. When I say young designers, I don't necessarily mean you're young. I mean, young
Early
in the
in your
industry.
career, right?
Yeah. Asking these questions or like complaining about it, or and I have the same sentiment. We learn through imitation. We're parents, right?
That's
So
good.
like this is something that like is front of mind for me with Avon. So like he's learning how to use his mouth, and I see him watch my mouth and my lips and how they move when I'm talking and stuff like that. And he's learning through imitation. That's fact, that's just how we're built. But, over time in the creative industry, that is how you learn, that's how I learned. And, when you take painting classes or whatever, like art classes, I remember in art school, getting like drawing classes, they give you a freaking drawing that somebody else drew, and you sit there and you try to copy and draw the same exact drawing. Why? Because today we're learning shading, and tomorrow we're learning perspective and different things, And so the key is downloading the information that's going to help you do the goal. So for example, I go to art class, I'm trying to learn perspective. I copy the thing and I mimic it to learn perspective. And then once I own it and I feel like I've mastered that, then I can do my own iterations of perspective, And I do agree with you that context matters. There's times when you're just completely unaware of it. You're just like doing your own thing. You found your references and you landed at the same solution, or there's just so much out there, and like having to vet every single thing that's out there, and it just happens.
Yeah.
However, I do default to principle, like for me personally, I've avoided, altogether, as much as I can, but if I'm aware of something, I'll try my best to just like deviate from it completely. And if you're a young designer, something else you can do is like, you can admit, hey, this was inspired by X, Y, and Z, whatever. Like there's a bunch of times when people hit us up, oh, you inspired me and I created this thing, and that's cool. It's like, that's the point. That's the goal. But yeah, bottom line, I just think context is important. And I do think we learn by copying. It's important to copy, I think, in the beginning, and then eventually evolve from it. And I don't think we can give you the answer and the prescription of how you evolve from it and things that you should avoid altogether, because I think people have different convictions and ways that they go about stuff. And for some people that stuff works and they're fine with it, So I think it's personal, but if you're, if it's something that's bugging you, then work at it. Keep working at it and keep doing the work. You mentioned this in an episode. Just get good. Just keep getting better. Keep working at it. And eventually you're going to find your own flavor, like you're saying, your own way of doing things.
That's good. I really like how you said that, comparing it to an art class, how sometimes you have to copy. You literally practice by copying.
Yeah. And I was like, I suck because I couldn't even do the copy. I was like, I can't do this.
Some other ways, and you can see it with our nephews, where they're into Naruto or they're into Sonic or these other characters. And what they do is they literally grab a piece of paper, they put it on top, or they trace it or like Ezra recently, I think he watched a YouTube video and he popped on was it Ezra? He popped up a YouTube video and just started drawing it based on the tutorial, which is essentially copying. You're just copying what you're learning. And it reminds me of like, the more you do something, the more you create muscle memory. And I think that's what it's about. It's like, if you're trying to draw this character, the more you draw it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And I think where people may get stuck is that they stop there and they don't build off of that, or they don't continue to try to experiment with other things. They just I just want to do this thing, and I want to follow the masters before me, and I don't want to. This is where I want to stop, as opposed to creating or iterating a new version of it, where you got to evolve it, you got to fuse it, and you got to create a new version. And some people don't.
Right. And shoot, what was I going to say? Anyway, yes, I don't want to create an excuse, and I don't want to create a narrative that like we're okay with it. It's just that's the starting point. I remember what I was going to say. The key is learning the principles. Get the principles down, because in that copying process, you're learning stuff. You're learning method. You're learning how to connect ideas. You're learning, oh, this is how this person came to the solution. Those are the things that I think you should pay attention to. And the way that you move away from copying is, in my opinion, ask yourself, well, what is it that you want to see in the world? What do you think the world is missing? Like for some reason I thought of Daniel Arsham. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's the sculptor.
Right.
And he's so talented, and I'm sure that if he gave a go to doing some form of like a Michelangelo, because he sculpts like a marble and stuff like that, and he does these like Greek looking pieces sometimes. Cool. I'm sure he could do it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he tried it in his life. I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm making stuff up, but eventually like he's sculpting, instead of sculpting people like they did in Asian times, he's sculpting Pokemon and things that are like relevant now, that like it's a cool iteration and a progression from how they used marble back in the day, maybe traditional uses of marble for like architecture. Right. And now I can have like a little Pokemon in my house. You know what I mean?
Like
so
modern,
yeah, like there's always like a start. I'm not saying he copied like this, I'm just saying there's a starting point.
Right.
And I think he is somebody who's made his own version, and he's introduced his own storyline, his own reply to the narrative. And it's beautiful and it's really cool, because it's like, that's awesome. Like you gave me something new to think about. Like I see where that inspiration came from, and it inspires me. Him and his process, outworking his own creativity, inspires me. And I copy his work ethic.
Right.
I copy what I see. Oh, this is how he journals and he documents. Oh, because that to me is like those behaviors and those disciplines and principles to me are what really, really matters. It's not me sitting there trying to copy his art per se.
Right.
It's like he put some cheat codes together in his brain that worked for him. And that's kind of what I'm looking for.
So copying in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's neutral. It's a neutral, chaotic neutral. I don't know what you call it, but it's a neutral. It's a neutral thing. It all really depends what you do with it and how you're profiting from it, right? Or how, because if you're copying, you're plagiarizing, calling work as your own that isn't, that's a problem. Or you're copying and you're grabbing something and you are selling it, literally selling somebody else's work that's your own, that's a problem. But if you're doing for self-development, or if you're copying it or creating something new, then that's in the realm of okay, I would say.
I think so. I think it's all in the development aspect.
Right. Good.
And I guess I did in terms of like the ethics, like when you're creative, you have responsibilities. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to make a thing. Like you can affect somebody else big time if you didn't do your due diligence, or if you just didn't care enough. I've been in situations that I didn't necessarily look for, but I have jeopardized or like distracted to some degrees because I made something and it looked like something else.
Right.
And I honest to God didn't even intend it, but I ended up in those situations, and it's made me realize that I have a big responsibility. My creative can affect other people financially, or just like with stress, or just with different things like mental health, and so when somebody's hiring you, they're trusting you, to do your due diligence and to come up with a solution that's going to help them. The last thing that they want or they expect is for you to do harm to them when they came to you for a solution. And a lot of times, we don't even mean that for real. And it's happened to both of us. And thank God it hasn't been often, because I think the times that it has happened, we've learned, we button up. But they're good. One, they're good that they happen because we learn from those mistakes and those experiences. But two, it really creates a weightiness to what we're doing, especially when you're in in an industry where you're making stuff for other people, when they're hiring you and stuff like that. Because, for example, for Gaia, if you were to do something, somebody accused you of copying, it's just you. You are going to have a major headache, whatever about it. But, you do something that, say, Chris Doe was attached to it.
Sure.
Different conversation. And a lot of things can happen because of that. So I think there is a responsibility and there's an ethics to it, and just doing your due diligence when you're making stuff, just being aware of the intention, the context where you're pulling from, and just working and operating with integrity, operate with best practices. In this day and age, you can't just go to a website and do a copy and paste, stick it in Illustrator, vectorize it, and put it on a shirt. Because...
you technically can't. You technically shouldn't. You shouldn't. You can, but you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. That's what I mean, know? It's not best practice, So just when you're learning, one, adopt the copy method for development. Two, learn how to... the legalities of what we do, and follow best practices. Buying fonts, looking at licensing, reading the license. Yeah. Can I use this for this context? There's different licenses for different things, can I print a bunch of shirts with this? Because sometimes licenses, they limit you. Mm-hmm. And all of that, it just comes from doing your due diligence and knowing the responsibility that you have as a designer.
I think that's important, and that's a step that needs to be part of the process, which we may have mentioned, is doing your research and making sure that everything is on the up and up. And like you said, we have both been through it, not on purpose. I'm trying to remember if there was ever one time where I copied something and I'm like, nah, I don't care. I don't know. Maybe early in my career I did. But when you're talking about business and working with clients and working with, thousands of dollars worth of value, it's super important to, and like I said, I feel like we said this multiple times. It's not if it's going to happen.
That scares me when you say that.
It is scary, but the part of the process, or part of doing your investigating, is to minimize that as much as possible. Because I remember multiple times, at least for me, I'm working on an identity, and I mentioned this in one of the other shows. It happened to me, and it was the most embarrassing thing ever, and I lost credibility. In front of the eyes of the client, And when I found this website for identities, I forgot, it's like the World Brand.
Let's stick it in the description.
Yeah, I'll put it on the description, and I can probably look it up. But it's like the World Brand something. It's like a trademark where you can see trademarked logos and trademark words and things like that. And I ended up finding multiple versions of the logo that I had made, years before, 10 years, 5 years. And I was like, it's just, it happens. It happens.
But you correct.
Sure. Yeah. And then I try to correct. I apologize profusely. And I think there's a misconception of maybe if you're a small creator, where you're like, oh, no one's going to notice, or no one's going to know.
That happened to me with a font finish. And I'll tell
you. Yeah. Because we're small. Yeah. We're small. But let me tell you, what's in the dark is going to come to the light. You know what I mean? Somehow they're going to find out. They're going to find out, Yeah. You want to share your story? Or?
Yeah. So on my website, I was using this font. I love this font. You know, I've been using it for years. And literally, I had the same thought. I was like, bro, nobody, who knows me? Nobody, right? Nobody. So this font costs thousands of dollars. It's like this beautiful, like Swiss
type.
Love it. It's like this, it's like a German or like a Swedish, you know, it's that kind of font.
Yeah, I remember.
And one day I get an email and it's the freaking people from the font. I was like,
from the foundry.
How? And I assume they have technology these days where they may run the program or they hire people that go out and do research. I have no idea because I'm literally insignificant in the grand scheme of the thing.
Billions of websites.
But dude, they came for me and they were like, we noticed that you're using this font on your website. And then they were like, they sent me a link that was like cart to ready of all the fonts and the weights, because you buy fonts by weights and stuff. So that I was using and that I needed to buy to continue using the font. Bro, I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. So I made up my mind. I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and buy the font because I really like the font. But I couldn't afford the book version, the desktop version.
Oh, right, because you need the...
And the freaking the web version. It was too much. Yeah. Like I needed to buy every weight for desktop and web. So I told them, I was like, I'm going to buy the font, but I'm going to remove it from my website and I'm not going to buy the web one.
Sure.
So I go ahead, I buy it, I change, I use the Google. So now I just use Google Fonts for everything.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like, con el lío aquí de estar buscando, unless I have the finances to go ahead or like I really want to use this typeface, I just use a Google font.
Yeah.
Helvetica, which by the way, probably requires a license, right? Because that's made by a font foundry.
I there's multiple versions of Helvetica. Honestly, I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Long story short, they kept coming for me. Oh, we noticed that in this web page you have this way and this whole thing. And anyway,
even after you purchased?
Yes, I ended up resolving it. I purchased what I purchased, and then I make the decision to just like move away from
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Especially for a typeface where you have Adobe Typekit, you have Google Fonts.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense.
But it happens.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we're going to get into some questions that you guys submitted, but...
rapid fire.
You know, there are ways... The good thing about the tech development that we live in is that there's ways of doing research to see the source of things, you know? You have TinyEye, which is a reverse image search.
That's right.
And now Google does it. So if you have a doubt, if you're uncertain, you can always take a screenshot or save the reference, stick it in one of those image reverse search engines, and you'll be able to find the source. Sometimes it links you to websites, you know, and you can see if you need a license, etc., and you can make informed decisions from there. But before we get to the questions, let's recap. Copying. It's part of being a creative, a human being. Imitating is learning. There is a context for copying. In our opinion, it's in the development learning phase.
Right.
Once you've mastered those skills, principles, methods, now you iterate and you create your own versions. You do that by perspective, introspection, asking yourself questions of what kind of creative do I want to be? What do I want to put out into the world? What is my reply to what is happening? You know, example, we have Gaian. Angel got inspired by Japanese, the big Helvetica font, the fits, the tech wear, and he created his own iteration. He's also inspired by creation, and so he has so many ideas in his brain, but all of that came from different sources.
Correct.
Now, he just, how you said in the beginning, you manage that, right?
Right.
So that's the recap. Did I miss anything?
No, that's great.
Okay.
The only no I would say is, and you would, I assume you would agree, is doing I wish there was another word, the due diligence, but doing that part of the research is not suggested that is a must.
Yeah.
That should be part of your whole process already.
Yes.
Include it if you haven't. So,
Ooh, Mr. Avon
Avon
has awoken
Cam
from his nap,
from his slumber.
and he is
Oh,
feeling stuff.
he's on fire.
Okay.
You want to take 2 seconds? We can. What do you think?
Dale. Bandido.
Let's put Bandit.
We'll be right back.
What happened? This guy. All right, Gotti, we're back.
Okay, we're back, and
Limited time.
we're into Q&A. Okay.
Yes.
Q&A. Avon's having his dinner, and then he's going to tubby time.
Okay.
All right. So, first question: how to battle creating from a place of copying?
How do you battle create?
How to battle creating from a place of copying?
Okay. What does that mean exactly?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
How to battle? Oh, I see.
Creating from
I got
a
it now.
place of copying.
Okay, it's just
Oh God,
phrase-
guys, I'm sorry about this.
it's a phrase a little weird.
Okay.
How
I
to
know that. I'm just reading verbatim.
Yeah, the Chat GPT shout out. How to battle from a place created. Okay. My recommendation would be, I actually, unbeknownst to people, I actually struggle sometimes with that. I'm like, I find something that's really cool. It's like, oh, I want to make it. I want to do it. Oh, I want to do this for my stuff. I want to do this for, and I feel like I'm not the only one. This probably happens to many of us. Obviously we geared more towards like the creative industry because that's who the audience for the most part that follows us. But in creative or in the design world and in the art world, I would assume happens often when you see something really cool and you're like, I want to add this or I want to do this. This was a brilliant idea. And especially in art, I feel, I don't know where I heard this, but art is not necessarily popular art. It's not necessarily about technique. It's about who thought of it first. Like Art Basel and the banana with the, which is the dumbest thing ever. The banana with the duct tape. It was like, that's a execution. How much was that execution? Didn't cost that barely anything. It's about the idea. Well, I thought about it first, And I feel like in the design world, it has a similar sort of aftertaste, I want to say. I don't know if that's the right word, but where it's about cool ideas that come out. And that's what happens with design trends pretty often, which we mentioned. I don't follow design trends. The last one that I saw was neomorphism, but before that it was, oh man, I don't remember the design trends. But anyway, design trends are essentially that. It's like people just copying each other, and it was a cool idea, and they end up doing it, and they end up executing exactly the same thing because it's popular. Right now in merch and in apparel, which we actually did it for Make Beautiful Things, it's popular to have like little characters walking with like little gloves and like whistling and like little stars and like quote. So many brands are doing that. It's just in style. It's a trend, So I think when it comes down to copying itself, that's more of like you need to self-report and you need to sort of keep yourself accountable to make sure that you're not jacking ideas just because it's cool. You need to give it your own flavor. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. So the way to battle it is just accountability, I would say, because it's. But then I'm literally processing as I'm saying this. It's like, who do I share stuff with to make sure that it's not. That's actually be a good idea. Sharing stuff with other people, other creatives in your field, to make sure everything's on the up and up. Because it's gonna come back and bite you. It's gonna bite you, fam. It is. Or you're gonna either get called out on Instagram or social media, or you're gonna get sued. That's one of the other. So I think self accountability is super important, but also lean into the community that you're in to compare notes and contrast and make sure that you're doing things okay. Do you agree?
Thank you, sir, for that answer.
And I'm gonna answer all these questions because Gotti's feeding the baby.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is we answered this one, so don't. I'm telling you, don't spend too much time on it. Just direct them to the episode. Where do you draw inspiration from, if not from other designers or the work of others?
That was episode 3.
About creative block, right?
Creative block.
Overcoming creative block.
So, go to our Spotify or YouTube. Watch episode 3. This guy. Watch episode 3. Where do I draw inspiration from? And something that Gary said in that episode, which I think it's brilliant. And I don't know. I'm not gonna quote it verbatim, but Gary draws inspiration from the world. She draws inspiration from everything, and not necessarily things that are in the creative field. You know. So I think I draw inspiration from pop culture, from cinema, from gaming, from music, and from other things. And I try to apply that into everything that I do from a creative aspect. So I think some of the coolest things come from places that are, and I'm looking for the word, that are the coolest thing. Even let me say my thought. The coolest things come from places that are what's the word, Gary? Not unrecognizable, but are unknown or unexpected. Unexpected. I got it. I did it, fam. So pull from there. Don't necessarily just copy or look at other designers that are in the same field as yours. So that you're not gonna end up being unique, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is why are you laughing?
No, go ahead.
We're a hot mess right now.
Yeah, we are.
But it's all good.
We're at the house.
I think it's time we find a sitter for this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Angel said, don't necessarily look at people in the same thing that you're doing, because then it's just gonna be the same. You know,
it's gonna be the same.
Look for other mediums. You know, nature, other crafts, other. Okay, I don't think this is working.
No.
He pooped and everything.
All right, let's take 2 seconds. Last break.
Yeah. He's like farting.
Put Band-Aid on.
Oh my God. We did talk about this pretty extensively in episode 3, Overcoming Creative Block. We gave how we come up with ideas and places of inspiration. You know, I think even if I am drawing inspiration from another designer, it's not necessarily like the end product. It's more like how they got there. So the other day I was listening to, I talk about Virgil a lot. So if you've been watching this every episode, I bring him like every other episode. But he does these long format lectures. And it's this kind of content that you just got to sit through, and as you listen, you just get gems. It's not like point 1 and point 2 and point 3, you know. But just hearing him talk and how he develops ideas, how he connects ideas, like even that is inspiration for me. You know, like I was telling Angel, I was like, Angel, you should listen to this because he talks about how he came up with this specific icon and the methodology that he used. And I think it's really cool. And it's something that I never would have considered. And so I may copy the form of thinking. I'm not going to copy the end product.
That's
at least
good.
To the best of my ability. So,
I love that.
Yeah, just look at how people think, how they process. And like Angel said, unexpected places. Get outside of the context that you're creating in. So like if you're a merch designer, don't look at like other merch designers. Like look at other stuff like packaging or like freaking poster art, or think of a shirt in a different way, a billboard, an ad, you know, etc.
Love that.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
We're about to wrap here. How can you sense upcoming trends to stay relevant between fonts, graphics, etc.? How can you tell what's in before it quickly becomes old and outdated? So trends.
Holy moly. Trend forecasting?
You have 4 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I have the answer to that. Oh man. Just I guess the the easy answer would be just make your own trends. Like, why are you trying to follow what's in or what isn't in? I feel like anything that's good will always be in. So make your own stuff. There's a designer, for example, that I follow. Her name is Piper. We'll put her in the comments. I remember I mentioned her.
Yeah.
Piper, I forgot her name. I'll put her in the comments. All her stuff is analog. She just grabs pieces of paper, she scans it, she traces, she vectorizes, she uses black market, she uses flyer work, all these other places, and just makes stuff that looks like it's printed, and it's sick. Does she follow trend? No. And she's popular. She's got, I don't know, 30,000, I don't know how many thousands of followers. You just got to be good. Like, do something over and over and over. Yeah. You don't have, I don't know. I don't like following trends. And it's not my.
That's a good answer. I think eventually you mature out of that.
I think so. In the beginning, sure. Learn that skill. But
sometimes trends work, like a meme, like the Travis, Kourtney Kardashian thing. It's funny for like a marketing or whatever.
Yeah.
My answer to that is don't pay so much attention to the trend. Pay attention to the underlying tones of that trend. Why is that a trend right now? Is there new technology? Is there like a narrative going on in the world about something like climate change or political or something along those lines that's, fueling whatever the trend may be? And play to that and insert your comment to that, not necessarily this font is popular, and so we're going to go with that font. Okay? All right, friends, a whole episode on copying. I hope you learned something, mostly just through our conversation of we've done it, we've been there, we've screwed up, we've learned from it. It may happen again. We're going to keep going. But the end product is let's try and be authentic versions of ourselves. Cool?
Beautiful.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Angel?
Yeah, make sure you're sharing, liking, and subscribing and smashing.
Yes. Big.
Smashing the like button is what I mean. All right, guys. As always, like I always say, keep making beautiful things, and we'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you. Bye.
Thank you for joining Made in House. On your way out, if you would be so kind to follow, subscribe, and or like our episode in the relevant social media platforms. Feel free to share this episode with your colleagues. And, as always, keep making beautiful things.